So just giving yourself like a time to process it and then be like, okay, what's done is done. Take a few days, go train, not think about, any race, not even the one coming up. And then, that day before, be like, okay, log in, you actually have to race tomorrow. This isn't just a trick.
Hi, I'm Nate, and this is Unger the Radar, where we reveal off-camera observations of authentic athletes. Today, we'll look at the story of HXN Homeschool Cross Country Nationals champion in Wisconsin, Ruah Franzmann-Simmert. We'll talk a lot about her journey to her championship run, as well as her faith, family, and how they both have supported her frequent travels and exploits to the national stage of cross-country and track. Who inspired you to start, and how did they do that? How have you been able to cultivate meaningful relationships with your teammates outside of practice? How have you learned to separate your personal identity from your sport?
If I had fun, the results would come with it.
Focus on yourself and focus on the process, because your process is your process.
Running is life. Life is not just running.
Everyone has their own struggles at the end of the day that you don't really know about.
It's much easier to tackle it together instead of just being alone.
I'd be in my fuzz with Grace, or I'd be in my pack with Grace and Allie.
What would you like to say to the people who look up to you? So, just to get us started real quick, like when it comes to like a national meet. So here we're gonna have to provide a little explanation, because Ruah, you're homeschooled,
Mm-hmm.
and you're on like a homeschool track team.
Yeah.
So you can't like compete at like state or sections for your state.
No, well, I can do indoor state, but that's it.
You can do indoor state. So that kind of changes the game, where it actually for you, you're competing in your postseason, and it's a lot more drawn out towards the end than if you had competed at state. So national meets, like thinking about those, like those probably mean something different to you in your season. That makes any sense?
Yeah. I would
say like the significance of national meets to you.
I mean, it's definitely like it changes my training a little bit, because my coach doesn't really worry about the local season as much. Like I'm not trying to peak, end of May when our state meet is.
That's what I was getting at.
It's definitely like one of the main ways that I would get like publicity for like recruitment and stuff, because I'm not on those state lists ever.
So thinking back to the beginning.
5th grade. So I've been running for a long time.
And why did you start?
My older brother joined the team. He was like an 8th grader. And my mom was just like, you might as well go to practice, give it a try. And I just never quit. I loved it right away.
I think this might answer the question that I have next already, but like, who was somebody that really pushed you and like helped you in the very beginning of your career?
I mean, yeah, probably my brother. And then just my first cross country coach. We didn't have, I didn't meet my current track coach until like 6th grade. But my cross country at the time, she was just super sweet and supportive to all the younger kids. So it was really helpful.
What are some specific things that she did to really support the team?
I would say just at least with the, middle schoolers, and we had middle schoolers starting so young, just like being supportive and teaching them how to act, love the sport and do it safely, moderation, not just being like, okay, you got to do this workout because we're 12. So he just really instilled more of just a love for running itself.
Yeah.
Fact.
You would say she really prioritized people to do the sport long term rather than just to get all these crazy, because you see all the time where it's some 6th grader gets this crazy market. Eventually nerves come, and anxiety will catch up to them, and they won't do what they, I guess, planned or what other people expected to do. So I think it's good that, at that age to just really nurture this level of the sport. So when it comes to because your team, how many people are on your team?
It varies a little bit. For this last cross country season, we actually had a full JV and varsity for our high school girls, and then our guys were sometimes a full team. For track, I would say it's ranged anywhere from 70 to 85 kids, maybe.
Sure.
So
When you're in that situation, like, so, okay, then how often are you guys meeting then?
it's usually like 4 days a week, not
4 days a
counting
week.
me.
How often? How far is like do people drive?
I have like a 50-minute drive, and I'm like one of the farthest. So I would say most of them live like right in Platteville where we train.
Sure. Okay. So then back then, maybe to my next point, it's like, how do you foster friendships between, because there's more of an emphasis on the team and building friendships because you guys don't see each other outside of practice. So how do you guys like build those relationships at practice?
I mean, I would say our team is a little bit different than some of the other homeschool teams because we're like a team in a homeschool group. So we do like have like classes that we can take like on Fridays, and we have like kind of like school dance type stuff. But other than that, I would just say like we've always been a close knit team. It's never seemed that much of a problem. Like we all kind of just like choose to hang out outside of practice and everything.
Yeah, I figured. Yeah.
They've lucked out and not really ever having to do that much like forced team bonding. So
I mean, I guess it's because this is a very important life skill. Like at post college, it's like, how do you guys actually, because you guys have to put more effort into it because you're not seeing each other as long as people that go to a traditional high school or as frequently. So like, how does making, how do I say this? How do you put the effort into, intentionally making time for each other throughout the week?
we have to like go out of our way to be like, you want to go to the mall or go get something to eat after practice or something.
Right.
So it's I mean, it's been a problem. I don't always feel like, I've had maybe as close or as traditional friendships as I could have had. Even when I was debating actually like transferring to a school team to get state and everything, like I felt so close to the girls. I was like, no, like, it'll be a sacrifice, but I just genuinely like all of them. So
Cool. What would you say the highlight of your middle school cross country career was?
I would say probably that like last cross country nationals, I got like 8th, and it was a little bit unexpected. I'd never run a 4K before, so I was kind of just out there winging it. And it ended up going pretty good. So I would say that was definitely a highlight. And then I won like middle school homeschool state, like my 7th and 8th grade year. So those were
I believe the first national meet was in 6th grade. Is that right?
Yeah, AAU.
And that was AAUs.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that like? Just going to what are people when they're 6th grade? 11, 12? Like
yeah, I was either like 11 or 12.
Going to that meet like?
I don't really remember that much about it. I remember more the trip. We like drove to Texas, so it was like 18 and a half hours something. And like I got to go see the ocean for the first time. The only thing I can really remember is how hot it was. Like they wouldn't let us like collapse on the track after because it would burn us. So I remember that, and like they had these like cold sponges that they would pour water on us. That's like all I can remember from that race. So.
that just boggles my head. Like, oh wow, like how do you like prevent someone from falling down to like catch him? Like I don't even know.
Yeah, they pretty much just caught all of us. So.
That's insane. Did you feel any sort of maybe you don't remember this at all, but like did you feel any sort of pressure at that point in time, or were you just kind of like, this is cool? I'm in 6th grade. Who cares?
Yeah, I would definitely say probably around 6th grade is when I started feeling, pressure because I was already like winning the local meets against like 8th graders and everything. And so, yeah, I would say that is around when I started actually feeling it.
So cross country stay in 8th grade, like what did that mean to you in your career?
I mean, because it's like, just homeschoolers, it's a little bit like, different. I'm not like, oh, like I won state type of thing. Yeah. But it was definitely just like a big confidence booster.
Yeah, exactly.
Just winning that strongly and everything. And it got me a little bit more excited for like the 5Ks at my future high school career. Before I was kind of just like, I'm not running 5Ks. Like, it's not happening.
What was your first five? Oh, sorry. Keep going.
No, you're good.
What was your first 5K like? And how did you kind of handle that mentally?
I think I was either in 6th or 7th grade, maybe, and it was like just like a local charity 5K.
Yeah.
My brother was running a half marathon, so I'm like, I'll just do this. And it just felt really long, but like I kind of just went into it. It was kind of like that 4K in 8th grade. Like I kind of just went into it, just not knowing what to expect. So I just kind of wung it, and it ended up turning out okay. So
Awesome. So, okay, here we go. So typically in, I guess, traditional high school, I think that like I'm from Minnesota and like the Minneapolis area. So like what I'll see at the end of the season is, and then cross country season is like people will go, they'll go Brooks, running or Foot Locker. I think this is 2023. So this last year or second last year for Foot Locker. So typically people go either Foot Locker, either NXR or running lane. You decide to do all three, and
yeah.
I was like, I didn't know it's possible. I mean, it is possible, like time wise, but like, what made you decide to like go for that?
I kind of just tend to do like every big meet I can manage.
Yeah,
I feel like sometimes it takes me like a while to hit the times I want. I kind of have to run like enough like, what I would consider like just okay races to get annoyed enough to PR.
yeah,
And I know I can handle like an extended like longer season like that. So, and with outstate, I kind of have to use all these bigger meets to my advantage to get my name out there and everything. So, and I wasn't having like the freshman year I would have liked. So I was kind of just trying to give myself some extra.
Were you ever doubting yourself? Did you think like, oh my gosh, I just signed up for 3 flipping meets and I'm traveling all across the country? Did you ever say like, oh, this is too much? Did you have those kind of moments, or were you just like fully bought in?
I think it's kind of gone like in stretches. Like sometimes I'm like, I'm sick of this. I can't, keep traveling as much. And then other times, like I do just like I'm like, no, this is fun. This is great. But yeah, there is definitely sometimes when I'm like, I get burned out because of all the travel, and I do race so much. And then managing like school and a training schedule with that is really hard. So yeah, there's definitely been some times where I'm like, I gotta cut back. I can't do this. So.
Who would you say that you would lean on when you struggle in those, like whether it's struggle with balancing stuff or just straight up just traveling?
I mean, like for the actual travel and everything, definitely my parents. Like obviously my mom's driving me all these meets and everything, but I would say I rely like on my coaches, and like the guys I train with back home a lot, just to like kind of keep me like mentally in the game and everything.
And how do you balance that with academics? Like, what are some tips and tricks?
Just doing a lot of my like homework like on the road, because I'm sitting in a car for 6 hours or an airport, and then just when I'm home, like finding time in between training and everything and work to just get homework done. So I can never really just sit down for like an extended period and get it all done at once. So just breaking it up into little chunks,
So when you're running these meets, you're kind of going through the motions of, getting ready, feeling those nerves, coping with those nerves. So what's it kind of like, especially in that postseason stretch where it's those 3 meets, like having to prime yourself to perform and then go back down and then come back up again, if that makes any sense?
I try to like not like kind of like disconnect from like the race for as long as I can, just to maximize that like recovery time in between. So, and I've gotten a lot better at like, I used to stress about like each meet like 2 days plus in advance, and I think that was causing a lot of my mental burnout issues. And of course that translates to like physical burnout then. And it's gotten a lot better since I like learned to like not really think about it until the night before. So I guess kind of just, trying to distract myself for as long as I can. And then when you actually have to start getting ready to just lock in, and you're doing it now. So
How did that first run go? First like run, postseason run.
I pretty much just went right into indoor training because I only had it was like 2 or 3 weeks between running lane and my first indoor mile. So pretty much just on Sunday, I went for my usual long run and then just switched all my like workouts to more track style stuff faster.
Yeah. What is something that you kind of learned about yourself and like what you could handle? Did you say like your capacity to go through the, races improve? And if so, like what did you learn about yourself?
I guess kind of just that I was stronger and I could get through more than I thought I could.
Yeah.
And just that it's okay to like talk to people and be like, especially like your coaches just be like, how do I fix this? How do I, get myself in a better position? Because, kind of just that I was strong enough to actually talk to people about it. So
yeah. How would you say that you kind of built up your confidence to be more vulnerable with those people?
I think like with my coaches, like I had like a few like really bad races. I've actually like DNF'd cross country races because of like I would get myself so stressed beforehand that like I'd get like a mile in and all my energy would just be gone. So I think like with my coaches, like obviously they couldn't just like pretend it didn't happen. They knew something was wrong, and they knew for years that I had like a tendency to get like really stressed about everything. So for them, it was like they kind of like, forced me to talk about it a little bit. And then from that, I learned that like, oh, like, you can, like, nothing's going to happen if you like admit that like, yeah, like I'm nervous. I'm not always like confident and excited to race. So just, they were the ones who like actually, forced me to realize that just because
nobody is really 100% excited to race. There's always some degree of nerves, I feel like. And this just goes, from all the way and all levels of the sport, I think. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I'm not an elite athlete, but I know a lot of elite athletes who've, had the same struggle as you have. And it's extremely common in the sport. And it's so much more common than, I guess, people think. Mm-hmm. What would you say? Okay, and switching gears a little bit, but like for track. So then, how was it New Balance in nationals? Your first indoor track meet, national meet.
Yeah, it went a little bit interesting. I would say I have very mixed feelings about it. The mile was just terrible. I think if I got boxed in, I think it was like super cold. There wasn't like great spots to warm up outside and everything. So like right away, like my warm up was messy. And then I kind of like took, what happened in the mile the day before. And I kind of like was like, okay, like, what you did wrong. And I was able to like kind of turn my 800 around. I think I ended up getting like 9th in the freshman division, which isn't bad at all. Just my time was not great.
Just zooming in more on that, like you mentioned, you kind of had to go back and reset before the 800. How did you actually do that to when you had a bad race in the mile? How did you reset yourself so you were ready to run 8?
I think a lot of it is kind of just like forgetting about it and like not dwelling on it. Because I kind of knew like what happened in the mile. So I was able to be like, okay, like it's a different race, maybe you won't get boxed in. And like with it being my first New Balance, I was like, with the 8, like you'll know how all of that works. You'll know how the check-in works, just, how they run the meet. The bigger races are definitely like an adjustment from middle school. So I think that oftentimes just throws kids for a loop. Yeah. But once I had that first race under me, I'm like, okay, like, you know how you're going to handle your warm up now, all of that. So,
Because you also mentioned before that you tend to go, and this is also very common because you got to learn how to run the race, but it's like you tend to go through a process of learning on the job, if you will, where you're trial and erroring different races and different tactics throughout the whole season. Was that something that was kind of on your mind when you were running at nationals?
maybe so, but like I tend to be like a front runner. And obviously in some races like I can't be. So those are the races that I kind of have to like adjust, but I still tend to like, want to get like a faster split. My first few splits to be fast and everything. So I do kind of like, have to adjust how I mentally do it because I'm not in the front, but I still pretty much try to run like the race that like I've learned that works for me, and then just like forget about everyone else until you have to kick.
So then the Metro Cross Country homeschool nationals. First of all, I think a lot of people that watch are familiar at all with what homeschool nationals is. So give me like a summary of like what that is.
Like the type of meet or
Yeah, just the meet in general.
I mean, it's pretty much just like all like the homeschool teams in the country can go, and I think we do allow some like private schools that aren't like able to be in their state's organization and everything. And it's pretty much just you can run unattached. I ran unattached my freshman year. So it's pretty much just all the teams and unattached homeschoolers, in the country. We got like it's a good course, I would say. We switched it up a little bit this year and took out like this horrible hill right at mile 2. So that was nice.
Mile 2.
It's a fun meet. Everyone's super supportive. All the girls are so sweet. So you'll have random people cheering for you on the sides. So it's really nice.
So then the mindset coming in your first year of homeschool, this is sophomore year, your first HXN. How did you approach that mentally?
Not great. I actually had an injury. That it was like the first meet that like I was like, okay, this isn't like you didn't overtrain. Like there's something actually wrong. So I pretty much just tried to finish that race. Wasn't a great time. And I think it was like 5th or something. So it was like, okay, I held it together pretty well, but right after that, like I had to get, everything figured out. And I ended up not running. Like I was at, I think it was still Foot Locker that year. I was, at Foot Locker, but I had to take DNS and everything for that. So.
Yeah. So when you're in that situation of I have an injury and I'm sick or there's some disadvantage that you have, and I think we touched on this a little bit earlier, how do you still stay kind of locked in and where you're not taking yourself out because you have this disadvantage?
I think like with the like more serious injuries where like you actually, can't be racing, I think it's just important to like maintain like your usual schedule, when you'd normally be running, if you can cross train, lift how you can, don't go and start eating cake and all of that stuff. Just because like normalcy will help your body heal and everything. And it'll keep you mentally in the game. You'll feel like you're losing less progress than if you were just sitting for 4 weeks. So
right,
definitely that. And then like just with like, depending on how bad, the sickness is, just, a cold, just train through it. It's going to be horrible. You might, maybe don't do repeats that day, but in general, just train through it and know your body for when it's saying no, like you got to actually fully rest. So,
yeah. So, track again for junior year. First time at NON. How was that?
Oh, it was a blast. I loved that meet. Hayward's amazing, and Oregon in general is just beautiful. It was a really fun meet. Like they had like a little athlete village for us and everything.
Okay.
And just like the warm-up facilities were great. And just it was run like in a way that was like it was set up for everyone to PR. Not just the kids in that top heat. So it was just a really good experience. It was one of my favorite nationals I think I've ever been to. So
I really like what you said about how it's designed for everyone to succeed, not just the Ellie Bear guys or whatever, which I think is something that is a little bit lost on other meets where we're only so focused on the fastest heat or the fastest group. And I think that, I mean, I can't say I've never run that meet as a JV Warrior, but from what I hear, a lot of people have had lots of success in that meet just because of how it was run and how I think they felt supported by the meet in general. Because if you're not running the top heat in the meet, there's a tendency to feel a little bit like left out, even though that's 90% of the people running at the meet. So I think it's super cool. What would you say are some of your highs and lows of that year of track?
I mean, my low is definitely I got pneumonia for because I didn't know what it was for weeks. Like most of the regular outdoor season was just that. I didn't run like a decent race, and I didn't feel like, totally back to normal until like our last regular season meet. And then for like a week later, I went to running lean track and I ran my PR in the mile. And then from there, I kind of just kept PRing. So that track last year was, it was a very like roller coaster type of experience. So
yeah, of course. So, and then like just thinking about, because you're running postseason meets all the way into June, July. So, and then for crosses December. So dealing with such long seasons, how do you kind of sustain yourself mentally competing for such a long time?
probably just like, breaking it down into like I separate my regular season, my postseason, like as much as I can mentally. And just not putting so much pressure on the regular season because I know, that's not where any of my PRs are from. I don't tend to run the best locally. So kind of just throughout that whole season, like I'm like, okay, like I can't wait to travel, like championship, I'm excited for championship season. So for me, it's almost like it's a completely different season or like a completely different sport. So
Yeah. And on the flip side, how do you handle such short breaks? Like for, I believe the NON and AU regions, the Delta was 4 days. So how do you kind of handle that break?
I don't really like like I said before, like not really like thinking about like the race you just ran. Like once it's over, like it's over. I usually like I give myself like a day to just like process it. Like even if sometimes I feel like if it went really well, it honestly takes longer. Sometimes I just feel more burned out that way. So just giving yourself like a time to process it and then be like, okay, what's done is done. Take a few days, go train, not think about, any race, not even the one coming up. And then, that day before, be like, okay, lock in, you actually have to race tomorrow. This isn't just a trip.
Thinking about like when you do get time off during, I believe it's like July and December, kind of, you get like February, March. How do you kind of make the most of that time, knowing how limited it is?
Like training wise, you mean?
Just physically and mentally, yeah. Both.
I feel like it's usually like this like crash course into whatever season you're going next to. So like after you it's kind of like, okay, you gotta go start ripping 1K repeats. And then like in December, it's like it's pretty much an instant turnaround to just
That's
like
insane.
trying to get top end speed like as quick as you can because you pretty much have none. It's not really like a break. It's a break from like mentally from racing, and I feel like I don't tend to be injury prone or anything. So my biggest issue is like when I get mentally burned out. But I feel like the switch between like my seasons, like it doesn't track and cross country feel very different to me. So I usually come into like that next season like excited because whatever happened like in the last one, like it's it's a different sport. So, it's kind of just like a total reset and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at least as close you can get to a reset when you're taking breaks for like 2 weeks. So what did you expect going into HXN year?
Um,
Junior year.
I'd say just because I hadn't broken like 18 like until after that. Um, my head coach, and then like I was actually running for a different homeschool team that I run for, on occasion. So my head coach and that head coach was like, we want you to go for top 3, go for the win if you can, like, try to win. And I was like, no, like that's a little bit unrealistic. But I was like, yeah, like I'll go for top 3. I'll go for 17 something. And then like when everyone's like, okay, like pace yourself. Don't don't go out there and start sprinting like you always do. But that the gun went off and I started sprinting. Just shooting for top 3, and then in the back of my head, I did have like that, like people think you can win, like they're usually right, like just go for that, and then whatever happens type thing.
So what was the race like tactically like? Because did you lead the whole way from the front, or were you?
I think I led from. I was like right. It was like 1-2. I was right next to this girl. And I think I took the lead at like a half mile in. And then from there, like I got my first mile slit, and it was in the 5:20s something. So I'm like, that's kind of exactly what your coach told you not to do. But and then one of my teammates from that team, she wasn't racing that day, and she was at like a mile and a half. She was literally something like, "Oh, like you did it now, like you gotta stick with it." And I'm like, I'm cooked. So, but I guess I got maybe like a mile and a half in, and I realized like you're not actually like, you felt worse, like you're not dead. So from that point on, like I know I don't have the best kick. So I have to gap the field, when everyone starts kicking. So I was kind of just trying to string the field out.
Yeah.
And it worked. They stuck with me until about like 2 miles. And then she said like in her post-race interview, like that's when I shook her off. So from that point, just trying to, keep pushing so they're not like right on you, because they'll beat you in a sprint. So
yeah, good tactical awareness. And then so what was it like after? Like, I mean, obviously you were going crazy, like just what were you feeling after?
I was a little bit shocked. I kind of thought it was going to be like you're either going to break 18 and lose, or, you're going to win, but it's just going to be an okay time. So I was just like a little bit shocked. And then like, in like a couple hours after, it was more of just like relief, because like I'd finally done it, and I'd done it so early in my championship season. It definitely like took the pressure off, the rest of the races. So
Is that race in November?
Yeah.
It's so weird to call HXN in November early in your championship season. Because that was the last race I ever ran was NXR every year, and that was in November. I was on the same time. So great. And then that would make you the 6th national champion I've interviewed, and the 3rd on this podcast. So
Okay, wow.
Maddie Golickson and Alan Lindman were on here too, so lots of success. So then coming into Brooks Regionals, that was this year, which was Arctic. How was that?
It was really cold, like really, really cold. So obviously, like NXR was, not a blizzard, but there was snow, and it was like, I think it was like, it feels like 18 with wind chills. So it was really cold. Both of them were. But with Brooks, like in particular, it's such a, the course is hard on a good day. So you are truly just running for like place. And because like I'd already, broken 18 and hit so many of my season goals, I was kind of just like, do what you can do, focus on place, because I've, it's my dream to qualify for that since, 7th grade. So I was, I think NXR had gotten me like used to and kind of over like how snowy and cold it was going to be. So I would say I probably had like an advantage there. Like by the time bricks came around, I really didn't care. I'm like, it's not that bad. So just going into it, like having like the thought in my head of like, you can run really well in these types of conditions, definitely helped me. I ended up placing like better than I think me and my coach thought I could. So kind of just taking those conditions in stride, and using it to your advantage. So, and not worrying about your time, because times were going to be messed up anyway, definitely helps. So,
yeah. And I mean, Megan Alley, which went on to win, and as a team later that year, I mean, their last year said the exact same thing. Like they had a predisposition to the crappy NXN conditions because they had to run in such differing circumstances. Because I'm sure it's the same in Wisconsin, but like here it's the cross country season, especially for you too, because you're training so late in the year. It's like they're going from August, which is 80 degrees and sunny, to Brooks, which was Brooks, and it was like 32 and it was snowing. So like you kind of had that full length of experience. And I guess a follow-up question to that would be like, how has that made you stronger as an athlete, knowing that you can handle those conditions?
I mean, I think I've always, had to train in conditions like that. So, it's always been like, the conditions are going to, do what they're going to do. But I do think it like taught me that like, I handle those, even better than like some other kids. Just so like, in the end, once that gun goes off, like, you kind of stop being cold. Like you don't notice it as much. So you only notice it before and after. So just knowing that like once you actually start to run, like you'll forget about how miserable it is. Like you're more focused on the fact that like you can feel yourself slipping than like, oh, it's really cold out here. So it's just, knowing that, just get yourself to the line and you'll be fine. So
yeah, because back to the thing we were talking about earlier about how when you're sick and injured and the weather is bad, right? You can't control those, right? Those you can't control them. All you can control is like your effort and your attitude. And like, I think you've done a remarkable job at being able to control those things and use those to your advantage, even when different things in your circumstances didn't, line up to an optimal result. Yeah. So coming into running lane in December, that was a crazy meet for you. Like, what were your expectations for that, and how did they end up?
My coach said that he was wanting me to shoot for like 1740. I was kind of like, I don't know, like end of the year. By then you are a little tired.
December, yeah.
And, my HXN performance, like I kind of thought that was probably like my max for that year. In the back of my head, I kind of wanted to shoot for that, like All-American top 25 status. But my freshman year, because like my freshman year wasn't, the best. And then sophomore year, I did run at running lane, but I was still injured. So I didn't really have like a previous like accurate benchmark of where I should be placing. So that, that 25 felt very like kind of a hard thing to crack. So, but like once like the gun went off, like I kind of, you do kind of know where you are placement wise. And I think I remember a coach saying that like, the girl in front of me was like 14th or something. And I'm like, wait, like, I am up here. But then most of the race was just fighting to like, mentally engage and being like, you're so far up in this pack. Like at times I could literally see like the girl who ended up winning. So just mentally like not being like, you gotta pull back. Like you're too far up, and just being like, no, like you got this. Like you're supposed to be here. Just really, fighting the imposter syndrome and like you can be here.
I guess going into that a little bit more, how do you fight imposter syndrome? And this is something that I am not good at either, so it's not like you're gonna have all the answers.
I don't really know. Like, I wouldn't have like an answer for someone. I guess it comes from like more like self-confidence and trusting your training. Like, if you know you've been training, you know, better than you've been racing, or you've just been training really well. I guess just like when you're in that race and you feel like you should pull back, you know, just think about like all of the work you've put in, and you know, you don't really know where it's going to shake up. Maybe the girls next to you, you know, they're not racing well, and today you can beat them. So I think it just comes like being able to fight that. Like, I feel like we're all going to feel that sometimes, but you need confidence in yourself to be able to fight it. So
1738 high. What was that kind of first gut reaction when you saw what you got at that race?
I wouldn't say it was less shock than HXN. But I was just so excited, and it's Running Lane is a great meet to do it at because, you know, they're always blasting music, and, you know, everyone's just so hyped. It's like a party. So, you know, just excitement. Like, I wasn't really thinking much other than that.
So now we're pretty close to today, and we gotta address the elephant in the room. CYUP Misfits this year. Freaking out. So it's funny because typically when I go to these meets and I see people, I always like, because I'm a photographer, I'm looking for emotion. And I'm like, why? What is like? I always love finding the stories behind it, which is why you're here. I'll go to the meets and I'll meet people, and then I'll look them up later on athletics. Done that. I did that with you, obviously, with Caleb Winders and Kelly Berry, because they were there as well. So I just saw like all these crazy abbreviations, and I'm like, what in the world? This is a great story. We had to put you on the podcast. But like looking back on that and the emotion that you displayed there, like what was the lead up to that?
I mean, obviously, like everyone dreams about going sub 5, and I've been trying, to hit that for so long, and it was kind of like that particular race and doing that was kind of just like the culmination for like what I feel like was kind of just like me kind of beating all of my previous battles, with the mental health and the performance, anxiety, and then that injury, which it didn't take my indoor season last year, but, I didn't run great because of it. So for whatever reason, like just breaking 5 flat out like that, it was just like the last like PR that was just like, wow, like you actually, made it,
It's incredible.
All this stuff. So
it seems to be a lot deeper than just I broke this time goal that I've been, wanting to break.
Yeah.
It seems to be like this personal victory over, which is awesome. This is why I love this so much, because like you don't know this, when you look at a photo or like look at a result. And this is why I think like it's incredible that we're able to do this podcast thing. Because it's like there's so many stories behind each athlete that just aren't told, with everything. So I guess expanding on that a little bit, like how does that build your confidence for the rest of his track season, knowing that you kind of, achieved that?
I mean, I would say, kind of like what I did with HXN, it takes the pressure off of like hitting some of those goals. And like now I can just focus on, place. Obviously going under 5 again and PRing, but like it makes every race that like sometimes when you don't hit your times, like each race is kind of like your last shot type of thing, and it stresses you out and you end up not racing as well. So just getting, that out early just gives me confidence. And like now I know I can do it. That's my standard in my head. So every race, I'll be going for that sub 5 versus like just trying to PR. So
yeah, it's insane, really. Like you've put this insane portfolio forward of running, and not in a time sense, but like you've gone through like everything that a runner, goes through so early in your career, which I think is going to help a lot in college, because there will be lots of people that will have to deal with pre-race and people to deal with, injuries and sickness for like the first time in college. So super cool that you kind of experienced that in high school and learned from that. What would you say are some other goals that you have besides time goals for this track season?
I would say just, continuing to like not lose like my, my reconnected love with it. For a while it was just just work. I stopped kind of enjoying it. The pressure just got to me. So I guess just not letting, that pressure come back. And then just like, continue to focus on like college recruitment and have fun with my team because, I'm getting old. I only have, one more cross country season with them. So just putting more of a focus on like the team now than just, just worrying about, trying to get through every race and every practice.
Let me just make sure. Give me 2 seconds so I don't mess this up. What was the thing that you did in January with the conference districts? What's it called?
Oh, it's just like it's districts like youth conference.
Forget the name. I've been doing some research on it. Is it called youth conference?
Yeah, it's just like a whole bunch of like youth groups from like all over the country. I mean, it's mostly Midwest youth groups. And it's pretty much just like, it's Christian based. So we'll have like, Christian like music artists. And it's like 2 days long. So you like stay in a hotel with your youth group and you just go to these like seminaries and everything. It's really interesting. And, it's a blast. Like we just don't sleep. We'll just stay up.
Oh yeah.
all night. So it's actually like, I was always said it's like, it's perfectly placed. Like it's a nice break between, my indoor season's technically started, but like it hasn't ramped up yet. So it's just 2 days when I can just chill out, not think about running. So it was just so good. So.
See, this is awesome because I had basically the exact same experience in college because it's called SALT Conference, which is the exact same thing except for adults. We can do stuff around town, and it's like the same. It's like the same. It's like the same thing. Where we go just to learn about Jesus and worship, and then take away some things and learn a lot about both ourselves and about Christ. So I guess one question for you with that is like, what is a takeaway that you had this year from districts that really impacted your spiritual walk?
I would say I went to this one like seminar, and it was on like finding like joy, like in the face of adversity, like how like it's not how happy someone isn't always linked to like, oh, like their life isn't necessarily just super easy and that's why they're happy. So just learning how to, find joy when things aren't going well, which is super important with running because, it's going to go bad at some point. Yeah. So yeah, that was probably like a key takeaway for me.
Yeah. How do you find joy in running when things aren't going your way?
I think I do like in general, like enjoy training, like more than I would say racing. So just even like, you might be racing horrible, but like just transferring that to like, going back to the grind and obviously having like a team that you're close to helps so much because, even in the like I still enjoyed my outdoor track season just because, I was still hanging out with my friends and, supporting them, even though I couldn't always race and it wasn't going well. So.
Yeah, it's super cool how you're able to have that mentality. Well, because I know like it's a lot of people that do running are very circumstance driven and emotionally affected by circumstances, and you seem to have, that base of just enjoyment that. Whereas you're not as affected by things that come outside of you, which is super cool to see. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you ever go on Instagram and like see like people's commitment posts, you'll see like they'll post something and they'll be like, "All right, thank you so much thank you to my friends and family for doing this. All glory to God and whatnot." It's like it's cool that people say it, but I think like saying that and living it are two different things. So like when you think of the phrase just like all glory to God, like what does that mean to you? And how do you reflect that sentiment when you train, when you race, when you do running?
Yeah, I think to me it means like, we're not here to like do what we want to. And like our successes aren't ours. It all goes back to him. Where I commit, like it won't just be my decision. Like it's where I was supposed to be. So just that kind of thing, like giving it to him.
That's so good, yeah.
So
and it's like there's no what ifs, should have's, could have's, because it's all in his plan, right? Which is super cool. Have that mentality and kind of embrace that. And finally, for this last question before we go to I was asked like 4 questions at the very end, but what is something that God has taught you this year, either running or not, or last year?
I think like a lot on like forgiveness, letting it go, moving on. You can't change the past.
So I always ask 3 questions at the very end of every podcast. So first one, how do you take care of your mental health outside of running?
Maintain a normal life outside of running, like separating it, just go hang out with friends, do something that you enjoy that isn't running. Actually, I found that like, when I got like a job and everything, like it had nothing to do with running. So I guess just doing things outside of running, you can't think about it all the time. So
describe your team in 3 words.
Supportive, welcoming, stable. Like it makes sense. Like
yeah, that makes sense. For sure.
Like they'll always be there. So
yeah, exactly. That's awesome. And finally, what advice do you have for young runners that are just starting the sport?
I would say have fun with it. Like I look back at my middle school years and they seemed so important, and like middle school state and stuff, like it seemed like the be all end all, but it's not. Even high school, like most of the meets, like nobody's actually watching or caring. So yeah, just have fun with it. And don't put so much pressure on yourself. Like it's not, in the end, like it is just running, like certainly in middle school and everything. So
right. Thank you so much, Ruah. Have fun the rest of the season.
That was another awesome episode. But what did we actually learn from that? Well, the first thing is that friends require effort. And I mean, it sounds kind of silly to commemorate like meeting up at the mall every Tuesday after practice, but that's an important life skill that we really learned very early in life, which I think is going to positively affect her when the structure of college, if you just decides to go there, once that's out, then she'll have the skills that she learned from homeschool to pursue those friendships very intentionally, which will help a lot. The next thing is just the length of her season and how she's able to lean on her friends and family and be really open and honest with them about what she's feeling, which, again, another great thing that's going to help her a lot, both in the running world and outside of it. And the third thing, and this goes without saying, but the one thing that she leans on more than her family and than her sport is her faith. And she really dedicates her entire career to God. Something that we didn't see it because this happened after the episode, but she led a prayer circle at New Balance this year. And it was just super inspiring to see that. And it's super cool how she's able to be so missional with the people that she surrounds herself with in that way. So, because I think she realizes this too, but God is so much more than just mission around herself. All right. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you can take away something from our time together. I encourage all of you to share this episode to a friend who would learn something and take away from this conversation. I'm Nate Unger, and this was Ruah Franzmann-Simmert, Unger the Radar. Now, go be the best version of yourself.